Hi, and welcome to the Thrive Alcohol-Free podcast. I'm Dupe Witherick, alcohol-free wellbeing and transformational coach, and the best-selling author of A Cocktail of Clarity, How to Ditch Drinking, Embody a Joyful New Identity, and Thrive Alcohol-Free. This podcast will show you that being alcohol-free is not what the traditional narrative says. And even though alcohol is so ingrained in our society that it is okay to give yourself permission to stop drinking if you want to. And you do not have to wait until you hit rock bottom. It is certainly not boring, and I believe ditching drinking is just the start to living an extraordinary life. By getting rid of this one thing, it allows the doors to open to endless possibilities and opportunities. Each week, we will have guests on who are at various stages of the alcohol-free journey, from those who are curious to those who have been alcohol-free for years. We will also have experts on talking about different topics relating to alcohol and beyond. Through these conversations, you will discover what it means to thrive alcohol-free. Enjoy. Hi, and welcome to the latest episode of the Thrive Alcohol Free podcast. I hope you're doing well and you're having a good week. It was quite exciting. So yesterday, the results of the World Alcohol Free Drinks Awards came out. So I'm not sure if you know, I was a judge on the World Alcohol Free Awards, which was fantastic and a really great experience. And I was one of the judges with a number of people in the alcohol-free space. And there were so many products that applied to win an award. And so it was lovely to taste. I think I tasted over 50 products and we judged the different products. So the winners of the gold, silver and bronze medals, plus those that were commended, are all out now. So I'll leave a link in the show notes below just so you can go on and try some new alcohol-free you may not have tried before. And they're from all over the world, as I said. So it's really exciting what's happening in the alcohol-free drink space. When I stopped drinking over 3 years ago, there was hardly anything. And now a lot of supermarkets have such a range of alcohol-free drinks, as well as going online and getting them. And it's great to see. And for me, that was one of the game changers, because if I hadn't have discovered that there were alcohol-free drinks, I don't know if I would have been encouraged to keep drinking. I only took a 21-day break. There was no rock bottom. There was no reason for me to stop. But there was this epiphany when I tried an alcohol-free fizz, which lots of you may know is naughty. So it was wonderful to have Amanda Scott on the podcast a while ago. One of the things I always recommend to my clients is you should try some alcohol-free drinks. Of course, if it's triggering, then don't go down that route. But for the majority of people, because I work with grey area drinkers, so people who are not teetotal but have not hit rock bottom, and obviously that's the spectrum, but for many people actually alcohol-free drinks are fine. And so trying those, it's quite fun to try some different drinks, and you realize actually if I can have an adult drink, then I'm also tricking my inner child. And the fact that you feel like you're missing out, well, you don't miss out, you experience JOMO and not FOMO, so the joy of missing out versus the fear of missing out. So if alcohol-free drinks are something you're interested in, go check out the winners. It's amazing, the range now, and there were so many wonderful drinks. And so congratulations to all the winners of the World Alcohol-Free Awards. Okay, so I wanted to talk a little bit before we go to our guest this week about coaching. And so I had this thought that the person listening to this might not really know what coaching is and what that is. So when I say I'm an alcohol-free wellbeing and transformational coach, you're probably thinking, what does that mean? And so my focus through coaching is on mindset, manifestation, and human design. And so what does that mean? So mindset coaching is really looking at those beliefs that you think are true and may not be. So the limiting beliefs that hold us back. It's looking at things like positive affirmations, journaling, implementing new habits, visualizations, adopting a healthy lifestyle, creating morning routines, embracing change, and celebrating your achievements. And that sounds broad, but they're the types of things we cover within mindset coaching. And then I also tend to do breath work, so really simple breathing techniques to help you to feel grounded, and it helps reduce anxiety, and it helps you regulate your emotions and reduce stress, of course. So breath work is something that I incorporate throughout, as well as emotional freedom technique, which is tapping, and that helps again to reduce anxiety, but it's really shifting your energy to more positive energy as you tap on different meridian points. And so I do a combination of that. And then from a manifestation perspective, it's really setting clear intentions, it's visualizing what you want to achieve, what's your desired outcome, and then really taking inspired action towards those goals as well. And one of the key things when it comes to wanting to do something different or moving into that future you is reprogramming your subconscious beliefs, because we run on 95% of our subconscious. So we really need to start thinking about how can we actually change that. So the things in the past that we've built up in our brains that we think are helpful to us as they keep us safe, which aren't really helpful. It's how do you shift some of those beliefs, and it's also looking at how do you overcome fear, how do you really live into your authentic self and stop doubting yourself as well. And so this all allows you to thrive and reach your full potential. So that in a nutshell is coaching, and what I specifically focus on when it comes to alcohol-free wellbeing and transformational coaching. And all of that is obviously with the aim of helping you to make alcohol a non-event, to make it just not a thing. And once you get to that point, then it's what next? And how do I start living the life that I've always wanted to live? So it's really exciting. And I have no doubt it's helpful for people to go through coaching and to have a coach. So if that's something you're interested in, I have my Thrive AF method, which is what I apply, which goes across the three phases. So foundations first and freedom. And my 21-day alcohol-free kickstart challenge starts next Tuesday on the 2nd of April. And that's a group coaching program where we have 3 weekly coaching sessions. You also have a one-on-one coaching session. And that's the initial start. So that's the foundation and part of the first. And how do you take a break from alcohol? How do you initially start on that journey? And then I have my retreat in Bali in 28th of July to the 4th of August, and that focuses on the freedom phase, which is the final phase. And that's really stepping into a lot of that manifestation and what do you want, and being clear on what your goals are and how you want to live and what is that identity that you want to fully step into, all with some amazing experiences and a group of like-minded alcohol-free women who you'll have an instant community with. And so if you're interested in any of those, then feel free to go to the website thrivealcoholfree.com to find out more, and I look forward to meeting you. Okay, so today's guest is Deb Masner, and she is the founder of the Alcohol Tipping Point. And the Alcohol Tipping Point is a place to find free resources, tools, and tips to help you change your drinking. And Deb also runs the 30-day dry months, where she helps people practice not drinking. She's a registered nurse, a certified health and wellness coach, and a smart recovery facilitator. And she describes herself as an alcohol-free badass. It's really lovely to have Deb on the show. I was actually on her podcast, which came out yesterday. So you can go and listen to me talking to Deb and my story and my side of things. But this is the conversation with Deb. So I hope you enjoy it. So welcome, Deb. Thanks for being a guest on the Thrive Alcohol Free podcast. It's lovely to see you again. How are you?
It's lovely to see you, Dupe, and I had you on the Alcohol Tipping Point podcast, so I like it when we get to know each other a bit better.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And thank you again for having me on. And it was so wonderful to have that conversation with you. Cool. So for those people that might not know you, Deb, why don't you give an intro as to who you are and what brings you to being here today?
Okay, well, thank you again for the intro. My name is Debbie Masner. I am a registered nurse and I'm a health coach, and I live in Idaho, which is one of our smaller Western states. I live in Boise, Idaho. I'm born and raised Idahoan. That is something people kind of wear with a badge of honor. But anyway, beautiful, small population state, I should say, but beautiful mountains and rivers and just a wonderful place. And I am the founder of Alcohol Tipping Point, and that is something that I founded in 2020, actually. I quit drinking. I was done. I say I divorced alcohol. So I was officially done drinking January 1st of 2020. And then I at first just wanted to have a place for resources, different books and podcasts and websites, all that. And so I made Alcohol Tipping Point during the pandemic. And then it just kind of grew from there, where I started a podcast in 2021. And then I started running monthly dry groups in July of 2021. I call them Alcoholidays because I think it is a real treat and it's a wonderful thing that you're doing for your body and your mental and physical health. So I started that in 2021 and I've been running those monthly dry groups ever since and it's just been amazing. So that's kind of how I got here business wise.
Yeah, that's incredible. And actually, when you think back to 2020 and you stopped drinking January 1st, it's amazing that you continued considering what was 2020. So how did you find that, not drinking during COVID and when everyone else was probably drinking a lot more?
Yeah, it's interesting because I should add, prior to 2020, I had taken a lot of breaks, a lot of day ones. I was always trying to find a way to moderate. I never really wanted to give up drinking. I wanted to just find that like magic pill of moderation. And I could never find it. And I knew that it was a problem, but I didn't know where to put myself. I knew that I didn't relate to AA. I didn't need inpatient rehab. And so I was just in that in between, which I think a lot of the people that listen to you and work with you are in that in between as well. And so I found Annie Grace and this Naked Mind, and that was in 2018. And so for me, that was really like paradigm shifting because for so long, the conversation has been it's you. You have a problem. You can't drink like a quote unquote normal person. And Annie Grace, This Naked Mind, and a lot of the modern movement that we're seeing, like with Sober Curiosity, is like, hey, let's really look at this substance that we're drinking and how it's been marketed to us and how it's so pervasive in society and whatnot. And so for me, that was helpful, especially as a nurse, just learning all the facts about alcohol and your health and what was really going on. That was helpful for me to change my drinking. Fast forward a couple years, I finally got to the point where I was like, "You know what? I'm done. I'm done. I think I've drank enough. I'm divorcing it." So that was January of 2020. And you asked like, "God, how was that?" A lot of people were drinking more in 2020. And for me, it was actually easier because there was no socializing.
Yeah.
Usually what would happen is I'd take a break, but what would get me back on the daily drinking cycle would be a social event. It would be like someone's bachelorette party or a birthday or a holiday or something like that where I would excuse myself and drink, and then I would just slowly start drinking daily again. So to have that where you're just like in your little bubble, your cocoon of your house, and you don't have all the socializing, that was actually more helpful for me just to get more continuity, more alcohol-free days.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's interesting because a lot of people are like, "Well, I wanted to drink more," and I was like, "This is, I don't think I can drink now." I was working as a nurse, but I wasn't on the floor, thank goodness, but it really affected how we did healthcare in our nursing world. And for a while there, I was answering COVID hotlines and was just all that stuff going on, and then homeschooling the kids and everything. And I was like, you know what? I am so grateful that I'm sober through this, because I don't know how I'm going to get through this without my wits about me. So, yeah, that was a very long answer to your question about how I just managed to do that during COVID.
Yeah. So that's amazing. And I love the way you talked about saying, I'm done, I'm divorcing it. And what triggered I'm done?
I think it that, in hindsight, now that I look back, I think doing those breaks is what helped for me just to slowly build up more evidence like, gosh, I feel better being alcohol free than drinking. That's also why I call it the tipping point. I just got to this point where like alcohol was taking more than it was giving. And so I kept doing these experiments, taking breaks, and going back to drinking and feeling miserable when I was drinking. And I think I just got to the point where I had learned enough about alcohol and the harmful effects of it that I was like, I don't think it's normal that anyone is drinking this toxic substance. And I don't like the way it makes me feel. So for me, having all those day ones, having all that time practicing not drinking, that is what helped me get to the point where I could be done with drinking.
Hmm. And what was the longest time that you'd taken a break prior to stopping in January 2020?
Honestly, 30 days, besides when I was pregnant.
Yeah.
30 days. I never really got past that. I would usually just say fuck it. Or I do the 30 days and then I'd be like, there, I did it. I can do it. I proved to myself. I don't have a problem. I'm good. Now I'm going to go back to drinking.
Yeah.
So that was part of it.
Yeah. Yeah, it's funny. I don't think I ever did 30 days. I was just reflecting. I tried dry Januaries and, stopping for Lent and things like that. And I'd do about a week or a week and a half tops. And then it'd be like there'll be an excuse, a reason to drink. Oh, it's the weekend. Oh, there's something coming up. So to have done 30 days is pretty impressive, other than obviously pregnancy as well. But to have done 30 days is very, very impressive. And I do think if it's on your mind, and you are conscious of it, and as you learn more, as you say, about what alcohol is versus what we seem to think it is, and what we think it's giving us versus what it's not really. I loved what you said about you realized it was taking more than it was giving, and I think when you get to that realization, it does help you to have a complete shift. And as you say, that's the tipping point that makes you think, I'm going to do something different, and this could be a good thing. What I find interesting though is the healthcare profession in general when it comes to alcohol. And you mentioned that as a nurse you were learning about alcohol really for the first time in terms of what it really was and the impact on health. And I do get the sense that people, obviously I'm generalizing, but people in the healthcare profession don't seem to necessarily have that awareness. And it's only when you are drinking excessive amounts that they really see it as being a problem. Because I have a friend who's a doctor, and she said to me, it's if you're drinking like a litre of vodka a day that they'll say there's a problem. And that's it's just bizarre. And she drinks, that's a way for them to relax and to unwind after their hectic, busy schedule of being in the hospital or whatever they do from a healthcare. So it'd be interesting to get your sense on the healthcare profession and alcohol. And another thing, that the reason I bring that up is because a lot of people are asked how much are you drinking, and obviously a lot of people underplay or downplay what they really drink, but also it's never really challenged. And there's certain times when I think people are put onto things like antidepressants but maybe not asked how much they're drinking, because that alcohol exacerbates depression, stress, anxiety. It really to me shows that there's a lack of understanding or correlating the two with the medical profession, because it's not something that's really dwelled on, or there's a bit of in denial. And I wonder if it's because they're drinking so they don't see the issue with it. I'm just curious to get your thoughts on all of that. And of course it's a generalization, but yeah, I'd be interested to hear what you've got to say.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Thank you for asking that. And I have a lot of thoughts about that. I think to your point about you only see people who have these extreme effects of drinking, right? Who drink a lot, who are coming into the ERs, coming into the hospital for detox. When I started nursing at the VA, which is our Veterans Administration. It's a network for veterans of the military. And part of my unit, I worked on the med surg unit, but part of my patient panel usually included people that were coming in for alcohol detox. And so, even just for me working as a nurse, I remember being like so hungover and shaky, but taking care of these patients who were there to detox from alcohol. They're in the hospital and just thinking, well, I don't need a medical detox. I'm okay. Just kind of justifying myself, but which I find so interesting now. So, yeah, I think that it's definitely not addressed in healthcare as much as it should be. For the last 8 years, have worked in preventative health and worked as a nurse in health and well-being. And part of what we do is help screen for chronic disease management. So we address pre-hypertension, pre-high blood pressure, pre-diabetes, pre-elevated cholesterol, because we want to prevent that so that you don't end up with a heart attack down the line or a stroke, right? We don't do that for drinking or for alcohol. We only treat when you are rock bottom, when you need a medical detox. And I think that's doing our patients, our community, public, a real disservice, because there are so many diseases, conditions that are attributed to drinking. And I know that you talk about that a lot. So the other thing is, when we do our health screenings, we ask about smoking and we don't ask about drinking. And we're really targeting like smoking, vaping, nicotine, all that. Drinking doesn't even come up. A lot of doctors, they just happen to have it on their patient intake forms. And a lot of times it doesn't even come up. And I remember going to my OBGYN and just saying, I have a problem. I think I have a problem. And she's like, oh, you're okay. You're checking off all the boxes. I was married. Check. Have you had a DUI? No. You're still married? Yeah. You having any problems? No. You're working as a nurse. You're taking care of your kids. You don't have a problem. You're fine.
Yeah.
Right. And so I think it's a gap for sure. And we still need help with that as far as healthcare goes. And at least for healthcare in America, it's run like a business. It's get people in, get people out. There's not enough time for a conversation. There's not enough training. And so usually the go-to statement is, well, you can go to AA, it's free. And that's all they have. Or they're just looking at, okay, I can send you to this free support group. It's been around forever. There, I've done my job. Or do you need a medical detox? And most people don't. Most people don't need a medical detox. So you're just stuck again. You're just like, now what do I do? Who do I go to? Nobody's really listening. And so that definitely needs to change. And I think we're starting to see the change as far as healthcare goes and the messaging that's going across, because for a long time, moderation was promoted. And, oh, you can have a glass of red wine. It's good for your health, your heart health. It was even part of the Mediterranean diet. And so I think that now that we're having new research, we're showing that those studies were flawed or they were funded by the alcohol industry that were showing any benefit to health. Now we're having new studies, new research that is showing that zero amount of alcohol is beneficial for your health. Zero. And a lot of public health agencies like the World Health Organization, the World Heart Federation, Canada, I think even Ireland of all places, like they're coming out and saying zero. Our recommendation is zero amount of alcohol for your health. They're getting rid of like this moderation myth of alcohol. So I think that's really important.
Mm.
And yeah, that was a longer answer to your question again, but it's so complicated. But yeah, we really could I think my other statement here is if these health and wellness professionals spent as much time educating and promoting decreased alcohol use as they do diet and exercise, we would have a tremendous reduction in chronic disease.
Yeah, agreed. Agreed. But it's almost taboo to talk about alcohol. And as you say, it's not seen as the issue. It's smoking and nicotine that's seen as the bigger issue. But we all know that alcohol contributes to 200 illnesses, 7 types of cancer. It's effectively the domino effect. So if you do want to get into health and diet and fitness, actually by stopping drinking, that then will motivate you to stick with your exercise plans because you're not hungover one day and you're not unmotivated another day because you've got a foggy head or whatever. And so, yeah, it's interesting. And I wonder when your doctor said you're fine, how did you feel about that?
I guess I didn't feel like anyone was really seeing me or listening to me.
Mm.
And in hindsight now, I can see like I was trying to throw these sort of lifelines out there. I remember even going to the YMCA, the gym, and
Mm.
doing like a body measurement test or whatever. And they give you your results. And I remember just like breaking down in front of the trainer and being like, I think I have a drinking problem, you know? And I thought, after I had said that, and they were kind enough, but what are they gonna do, right? But after I had gone through all that, eh, I remember leaving that day and thinking, "Are they gonna catch me at the front desk? Are they gonna give me a pamphlet?" I just thought for sure, "Wow, I just said this.
Yeah.
Someone's gonna help me." And no one did. And you can only help yourself, but I remember thinking, "Oh, it's out there now. I'm telling people. Now they know. Now I'm gonna get some help." And it never happened.
Yeah. So how did you stop? Because you obviously talked about AA not being for you and you tried to get help from people or insight from people and it didn't happen. So how did that day one happen? And how
Well,
did you continue?
the day one of 2020 or
2020. Yeah, the day one of
oh yeah.
2020.
Well, I think by then I had taken enough breaks and gotten enough knowledge. And I think by then I was ready to just be done. I think a lot of it was one thing that I've said before is I needed to come to this realization. Okay, yes, alcohol is shit for your health. Anyone can become addicted. It doesn't matter. Any society that alcohol is introduced into, people will develop an addiction because it is an addictive substance, right? And so in that sense, it's that whole it's not your fault. And then the other part of it is it's your responsibility. So when I could marry those two concepts, yes, alcohol is shit for your health, and this is my responsibility. I need to do something about it. I think for me that was a real helpful turning point for me to be like, okay, I'm ready. I have enough evidence. I have enough data points. Like, it's time I'm ready. And I got to this point of acceptance because you go through this whole grieving process when you're changing your drinking to get to this point where you can accept that you're no longer a drinker and you don't want to drink.
Mm.
But I had to go through all those and years of going through it. And in the grief model, there's denial And Lord, I was in denial for a long time. I was in denial about it even being an issue. There's sadness. I remember being really sad, like, oh, why can't I drink like a normal, quote unquote, normal person? And then there was anger, and I was angry at big alcohol. I was
Mm.
so angry. I still am because I think it's important as a nurse. I'm going to continue to educate people about the effects of alcohol. But there was anger, there was bargaining. Bargaining for me was like trying to moderate.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then I got to acceptance, like I was saying. So once I could get to acceptance, like Laura McCown says, this is my thing.
Mm.
This sucks that this is my thing, but this is my thing. And so that was really, I think, what solidified it for me.
That's amazing. And then what made you continue on the journey? So once you had got to, because obviously going back and forth with all those different phases of the process, did you start to see changes or things happen that made you think, I'm definitely now doing the right thing by not drinking?
Yeah, I would say once I finally passed that 30-day mark and kept going, I was feeling so much better. I had lost weight. I had more energy, more clarity. My relationship with my husband improved a lot. And I remember just prior to that, just kind of feeling resentment towards him and fighting in my head with him and just not having great feelings there. And honestly, just by removing the alcohol, a lot of that went away,
Mm.
which was interesting. I have a friend that says she's been in my groups and stuff, but I consider her a friend. But she's like, I could have gone to marriage counseling, gone on a diet, taken a fitness regime. I could have done all this stuff
Yeah.
or just remove alcohol. And by just removing alcohol, it made all these other areas of my life improve.
Yeah.
Now, it's not 100%. There's a lot more to it because once you remove alcohol, you're just raw dog in life, right? You're just
Exactly.
out there
This is
bare and
me.
exposed. But I think if that's your thing, that's the best thing you can do for all different areas of your life. And then as you get further down the line, you can address those. A lot of people, as they get further down the line, they do go to counseling. They do start to uncover, like, gosh, what happened in the past? Or maybe I'm not happy in my marriage or my career. And so they do start to evaluate that. Or they then decide, okay, now I'm going to really focus on my health, what that looks like. But first, they couldn't do that without removing the alcohol first.
Exactly. Yeah, absolutely agree. And that's why I talk about it being a domino habit.
Yeah.
If you can stop that, all the other habits just fall into place. And I fundamentally believe that by getting rid of this one thing changes everything in life, and it allows you to thrive in every area of your life as well. So absolutely agree with everything you just said. I'm curious, so in terms of your preventative health now, the work you're doing as a nurse, are you weaving alcohol into that now? Because you were saying you were focusing on the pre-diabetes and other things, but have you started to weave that more into your nursing aspect of your work?
Well, I wish, but no, we haven't yet. And part of that is because we're a hospital and we're owned by a bigger organization.
Mm.
So we do what that bigger organization says
Mm.
to do, what's in our medical record, what's decided.
Mm.
And then it became this weird conflict of interest.
Mm.
Now that I work in helping people change their drinking. And
Mm.
so it's like, I can't really mix that business with this business, if
Yeah,
that makes sense.
sure.
But it's something I would like to do and talk more about. And I did do health coaching through that organization too, and actually ended up with a lot of clients who did express their concerns about their drinking. So I was able to help them that way through health coaching. But as far as the bigger organizational picture, that still needs to change. And in fact, our hospital, I was so mad. I remember going to the mailroom and there was a flyer and there was an event with the cardiologist, and it was called Wine, Women, and Wellness. This was a few months ago, Dupe,
Oh
and I took
dear.
it back to my department. I was like, "What the hell?"
Yeah.
Right? I thought we were moving beyond
Oh my
this.
goodness. Yeah.
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 Yeah. S
It's when you see things like Pilates and Prosecco, and you're like,
Oh, t
"Come on,"
yeah,
you
but
know?
I'm, like, at a health organization and the
It's
goddamn
true.
cardiology department? What the hell? And then they're like, but it wasn't the cardiologist that put on the event. The cardiologists were showing up to it, but it
Mm,
was the PR and
yeah,
whatnot.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. It's interesting. Yeah, and so can you see it changing with the research that's been done recently and the fact that people are saying now that it's not good for you, and Canada's obviously reduced its recommended alcohol
Yeah.
limits hugely compared to any other country. Can you see it being added at some point? Obviously, you can't specifically do it, but is there a change in that bigger picture hospital ownership, or is it still run by big alcohol that it's never going it's never going to change?
The ho yeah, it's job security, Dupe. Oh my god, that's what it is. No, I do think slowly change will happen, and I think it will be similar to smoking. You
Mm,
remember doctors used to
yeah,
smoke, and they used to be on the ads for smoking,
yeah.
and so I do think we're gonna slowly see that, but we're also, in the United States anyway, I think wary of it because prohibition didn't work, obviously, and there is so much big money behind alcohol,
Mm,
which is interesting. So that's like a bigger political picture, but it's interesting to me. The biggest lobbying group that's banded together is tobacco, alcohol, and firearms. And they're like own little entity. And alcohol isn't regulated like under the FDA
mm,
because it's not a food. So
okay.
it doesn't fall under a lot of the food labeling, the food regulations that people have. It's really interesting. It's bigger than I am, that's for sure.
Yeah.
But I do think since we saw it with smoking and tobacco, I think we'll start to see it more with alcohol. I hope so. That's my hope.
Mm, mm, yeah. Yeah, well, we'll watch this space and hopefully, people like us will help rally some of that, and there's a much more conscious awareness in the places outside the hospitals, which will allow people to start making clearer choices and better choices and feel that they have permission to do that, and they don't just have to follow the crowd and what society's been saying forever, that you need to drink to be sociable, you need to drink to relax, etc., and what red wine's good for your heart. So yeah, here's hoping. Okay, well, why don't you tell us a bit about what you're doing with Alcohol Tipping Point and your Alcoholidays? I love the title of your Alcoholidays because it makes it sound very appealing and enticing. So tell me a bit about that.
Well, thank you. I like that title too. So, what I do with Alcohol Tipping Point, I have a podcast, as you know, because you are on it. And then I run the monthly Alcoholidays. So that's every month. It just starts at the beginning of the month, and it's a group where I say people can come together and practice not drinking. Because, as we talked about, it takes a long time to get to the point where you know you're done with
Mm,
alcohol. And a lot of people don't want to completely embrace sobriety, or they don't know that yet, but there's not a lot of safe, non judgmental places to practice that
mm,
because a lot of places you have to be perfect.
Mm.
like AA. It's like, well, you're successful if you're perfect. You got to go back to day one. You got to count day. It's not for everyone. And so I want a place that it has science and compassion based tools and information for you to practice not drinking. You don't have to be perfect. A lot of people have spent decades drinking. So it's really hard to change a habit. And I think that we're not doing ourselves a favor when we're so reliant on like willpower and perfection and shame and blame. I think we need to be kinder to ourselves when we're doing something like this because it's all around us. It's so normalized. Drinking is normalized, and being alcohol free is you're kind of an outlier, and it's hard to do that.
Mm.
But anyway, so the program itself is you get daily emails, you get lots of content, lots of tools, just lots of information so that you can apply that to your life. I'm really big on presenting different viewpoints. I think there is not one way to change your drinking. There are so many different ways you can do this. And thank God. Thank
Yeah.
God for that.
Yeah.
And for some people, AA is helpful for you. And I think that's wonderful. And it's great that you have that resource. And I also want to provide just different tools, different options, because even though we're all have this drinking thing, we're all in different places in our lives.
Mm.
Some are like young professionals. A lot of people are older, maybe they're retired, they're at a different stage in their life. So, what might work for you might not necessarily work for Jane down the block.
Mm.
So, anyway, I like to provide a lot of tools and resources. And then in that group, we do a group call twice a week, and we have a chat feed that's private. It's not on Facebook, just so people feel safe
Mm.
again practicing not drinking. And it's been really great. I really love doing it. So that's the main thing I do in Alcohol Tipping Point. I also have like an ongoing membership for people that know they're done with drinking.
Mm.
I call it the Alcohol Free Badass Club.
I love that. Yeah.
And then I've been doing some retreats that have been really cool. I know you're doing your own retreat to Bali, and I've been doing some smaller retreats that have been great. I think people are really looking for that connection and finding other people that get it. And I also do some one-on-one coaching too.
Mm.
And I think that's all I do. Yeah.
That's a lot.
About it. And I have a mindfulness class I teach just once a year too.
Yeah. Wow. Wow.
Yeah.
All on top of nursing as well, which is amazing.
Yeah, I've
Mm.
dramatically cut down my hours though. Now I'm just working as needed,
Okay.
just keeping my toe in the game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Brilliant. Brilliant. And so, how can people find you if they want to jump into any of those things?
You can go to my website, alcoholtippingpoint.com. I'm also on Instagram, Alcohol Tipping Point, and you can always send me an email, deb@alcoholtippingpoint.com. And you can find lots of tools and resources, lots of free stuff too. I have like a free 10-day break and a free dry guide and free mocktail recipes.
Brilliant.
Lots of
Yeah.
options for you. Yeah.
Wonderful, wonderful. And that's really, really helpful. And I imagine over the years you've been helping lots of people to get to the point that you did, where you're finally done through the Alcoholidays. I think that's such a great space for people to be in. And I imagine maybe people do that a couple of times with you, or
They do, they do.
yeah.
I offer an alumni discount for people who come again, and
Mm.
yeah. And,
Mm.
one thing I wanted to say, and I kind of started thinking about this a little differently a couple months ago, because I've always talked about like, "Oh, I'm divorcing alcohol. It's toxic," kinda talking about that relationship, which
Mm.
is a very negative relationship, right?
Mm. Mm.
And so I think another way that could be useful to think about things is like dating sobriety, dating being alcohol free before you marry it.
Yeah.
You need a way to practice not drinking in different settings, you know? And so you can think of yourself more as like, okay, I'm going to just experience what my relationship with sobriety is like. And do I like it? Do I want to marry it? And I think
Mm.
we don't give people the space to get to, we're just like, oh, you're done drinking. That means you're married to sobriety. Oh, no, well, God, you would never do that unless you're on
Mm.
like a reality TV show. You
Um,
wouldn't jump into marriage
Married at
like
first
that.
sight. Yeah,
Right, right. And so you could kind of think about like, okay, I'm going to take sobriety with me to this wedding. We're going to go on a date to the wedding. We're going to go on a vacation together. We're going to just to see, do I like this? Is this for me? Do I want this to be my new relationship?
yeah.
Instead of focusing so much on the negative parts of breaking up with drinking.
I love that. I think that's so helpful for people. And I hope that's in your messaging now because that makes it feel really appealing. And it's one of the, one of the things I always say is that you don't have to think about forever now.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
even though you're taking a break, take your break for 21 days, 30 days, 60 days, 90 days, whatever. But don't think about it being a forever thing because that would it frightened the life out of me. I remember I just couldn't. I did a 21-day break and obviously extended significantly, but even at 60 days, 90 days, I still wasn't at the point where I was like, this is me done. I'm never going to drink again because I think it's too scary for people to even contemplate that to the point that you made earlier. If you've been drinking for decades, and you're suddenly ripping the band-aid off and saying, right, that's it, you're done, it's not going to be helpful for people. So I love that the way you phrase dating being alcohol free or dating sobriety. I think that's fantastic, and it just makes it quite playful and fun as well, and it definitely reduces the amount of pressure that people may or may not feel.
Yeah, I mean, I think I really want to reduce the stigma.
Yeah,
This doesn't have to be
yeah,
a conversation about labels or whatnot. Like, this can be a wellness conversation. This can be a health conversation. This doesn't have to be about you having some moral failing and you're broken. You're not broken. Nobody is broken. Your body, your brain is working exactly as it was supposed to.
yeah,
And you've just learned, your brain has learned,
yeah,
okay,
yeah,
it's given alcohol a job. It's moving you towards pleasure and away from pain in the quickest way possible. And that's how we work. And so you're not broken and you can change.
yeah. Brilliant, brilliant message, Deb. Well done. Yeah,
Thank you.
fantastic. I'm so pleased you brought that up as well. I think that's so important for the person who's listening to hear. I really do. Thank you. Okay, so we always end our conversations with what does thriving alcohol free mean to you? And so I'd love to hear your answer to that.
Well, I love that you are asking that because I was thinking about that word thrive. And I remembered that I've been picking like a word of the year.
Mm.
And 2020, my word of the year was thrive.
Wow, gosh,
And
amazing.
I know, right? And then one definition of it is just like growing and flourishing in
Mm.
spite of difficult circumstances,
Yeah.
in spite of circumstances, right? And so for me, thriving alcohol free is like I am growing, I am flourishing no matter what around me. Even though there is still alcohol all around us, people are still drinking, I'm still thriving. You can still thrive without it. And that's how I feel.
I love that answer. That's such a unique answer. And I love the fact that the year you stopped drinking, your word of the year was thrive. How incredible. And we get to meet today, 4 and a bit years later. And it's that whole, isn't that weird?
Oh, I know.
Serendipity.
Amazing. It's amazing. Yeah, I mean the other side is just way better than I could have ever imagined, and I'm so glad I'm in this space now and grateful for it, and just I love, love, love that we are seeing so many people change their drinking and that Dupe, you're doing what you're doing now, and it's so helpful, it's so needed.
Yeah. No, it's incredible. And I'm grateful for you, Debbie, as well, just in terms of everything you're doing, and that we've got to meet as well. It was an introduction from someone else in our alcohol-free
Yeah.
community, and I just love this community because everyone just wants to help. Everyone's on the same sort of mission to really get this message out and help as many people and connect people and make people feel like you're not alone, that we're all trying to do good in the same way and hopefully change the world one person at a time. So yeah, I love it. Love it. Well, thank you so much. I really appreciate you being a guest. Is there any last word of wisdom or insight that you'd like to share?
I would just like to reiterate what you said, like, you're not alone, that you're not broken, that you can change, that there is help for you, and that people like Dupe and myself were rooting for you, and be kind and compassionate to yourself on this journey. You're worth it.
Well said. Thank you so much. Well, thank you again for being an amazing guest and for all the nuggets. And I'm going to remember dating sobriety. I think that's a really great way of looking at it, that to your point isn't negative, and it's quite exciting and playful, and hopefully more people will see that and then step into that. Because why not try? It's always fun to go on dates. Well, I can't remember, but it's always fun to go on dates with new people and try something new. So yeah, hopefully that will inspire someone today. Well done.
Yeah, share away. The more people, you know how it is. You want to shout from the rooftops, like, it's amazing up here. Please join us. Yeah.
Absolutely. Jump on this ride. It's brilliant. Okay, well, I look forward to meeting up with you again and connecting, but thank you again for being on, and I'll see you soon. Take care.
Thank you.
Well, thank you, Deb, for being on the podcast. It was a really great conversation, and I loved when I asked her what does thriving alcohol-free mean to her. She said that her word of the year in 2020 was thrive, and it means growing and flourishing in spite of difficult circumstances. And I really loved that. And it was strange that year, obviously 2020 was the year that I decided to stop drinking, and so that was her year of thriving. So it really was quite special when I heard that. Anyway, I do hope you've enjoyed the episode. Please leave a review or a rating if you enjoyed it. It would be so helpful for other listeners to find it, because it's the reviews and the ratings that really help other listeners find the podcast. So I'd really appreciate it. If you are enjoying the podcast, then please leave a review, and also feel free to DM me or send a message and let me know, and I'd love to thank you for that. Okay, have a wonderful week, and I will see you on the next episode. Take care. Bye. Thank you so much for listening to the Thrive Alcohol Free podcast. If you enjoyed the episode, please subscribe so you get alerted every time I drop a new episode. I'd love it if you could rate, review, and share this episode. Feel free to tag me on Instagram at Thrive Alcohol Free and follow me for daily tips. If you would like to work with me, I offer one-to-one coaching sessions and group coaching program. If you're not yet ready for coaching, I also have a self-paced online course, which is a companion to my book, A Cocktail of Clarity. All the links are in the show notes. I will see you in the next episode. Have a wonderful week. Take care.